Hi boys and girls, Mrs. Harris here. I'll be your mystery reader for tonight for chapters 23 and 24. So let's turn to chapter 23, page 181, and this chapter is called Nervous. It's an adjective and it means fearful, uneasy, very, very scared. It was a nervous wait that left them anxious. India stayed by Boo's side and held his hand even after the ambulance arrived. "My name's Levi," one of the paramedics said to Boo as he worked quickly to fit him with the oxygen mask. He nodded toward his partner. "And he's Roy." India watched as Levi drew medication into a syringe and attached it to the mask. "This is a Ventolin nebulizer, which will open your airways. I know things might feel a little scary, but we're taking you to the hospital to get you fixed up right away." They carefully lifted him onto the stretcher and wheeled him into the corridor. The Wimples crammed into the elevator, each of them wishing it would go faster. Boo's heavy eyelids drifted open and closed. Byron was waiting for them downstairs and directed people out of the way as the paramedics flew through the lobby. He held the door open and gave India a small wave before they rushed outside. Every time Boo had a flare-up, the Wimples were never sure how bad it would be or how long it would take him to recover. But in the backs of their minds, they worried that this would be the one that would be too much for his small body. Levi kept talking to Boo. "Hang in there, little man, and hold on tight, because you're about to have the ride of your life." They slid the stretcher into the ambulance. India felt Boo's hand slip away from hers. Dad and Roy squeezed in beside Boo. India tried to climb inside, but Levi gently held her back. "Sorry, there's no room." He closed the doors and hurried to the cabin. "I have to go with him," India pleaded. "He's my brother." "I'm sorry," Levi said, climbing into the driver's seat. "We'll see you at St. Michael's." Mom pulled India close as the siren blared and the ambulance careened down the street. "Don't worry, India," Byron hailed a taxi. "You'll be there just as fast, I promise." Nana Flo took charge after they scrambled inside the cab. "St. Michael's Hospital," she told the driver. "I'll give you an extra $50 if you can keep up with that ambulance." The taxi driver smiled. "I'll do better than that." They swerved through the city streets, following the ambulance with its wailing siren and flashing lights. Cars stopped and pulled out of their way, but each second India was away from Boo felt too long. "Do you think he'll be okay?" she asked Mom. Mom would always hold India close at times like this and answer, "Of course he will. You wait and see." But this time, when Mom began to speak, her voice cracked like the words were stuck in her throat. It was Nana Flo who said what they all wanted to hear. "Of course he will. He's a Wimple, and we Wimples never give up. He's going to be just fine." When the hospital finally appeared, the taxi came to a screeching stop out front, just as the ambulance turned into the entrance. Nana opened her purse and handed the driver his money. "Keep it," he said. "Buy the little one a present when he's better." "Thank you," Nana Flo gently squeezed his arm. "I will." The paramedics wheeled Boo out of the ambulance and rushed him through the hospital doors with Dad running alongside the stretcher. The Wimple scrambled closely behind. "We're here, Boo," Dad puffed. "We're right here." The paramedics raced down the corridor until they reached the doors of the children's unit. Levi turned and said, "We can only allow the parents inside." India and Nana stood panting, worry lining their faces. "We'll be back soon," Dad promised, and he and Mom disappeared inside. India craned her neck and saw Boo's pale face between the closing doors before they slowly blocked him from view. India never thought it was possible for a perfectly normal heart to hurt, but seeing Boo's small body on that stretcher made her heart feel as if it was being trampled. Nana Flo gently took her hand. They sat in their pajamas and fluffy hotel slippers opposite the doors, and they waited. The clock above the doors ticked in an endless rhythm, making each second feel long and drawn out. Tick, tick, tick. Stretchers sailed past, nurses pushed patients in wheelchairs, and anxious relatives searched for loved ones. Tick, tick, tick. India watched the doors, and each time they opened, she willed it to be Dad. Tick, tick, tick. When he finally appeared, India jumped from her chair into his arms. "How is he?" Dad's hair was ruffled and his eyes were red. "He's a real champion. Stayed calm the whole time and did exactly what the doctor said." "When can we see him?" Nana Flo asked. "Soon. They're running a few tests." Dad's voice was strained and small. Is he going to be okay? India asked. Dad held her tight. Levi says he's in good hands. I have to go. He kissed her head and again disappeared through the doors. India and her family had been in hospitals with Boo many times, but moments when they had to wait for doctors to hear their diagnosis, to hear if Boo was going to make it, were the hardest. And this was the worst yet. Their minds would race with what the doctors would say. What if it was bad news? What if this time was different? What if? Nana broke through her worried thoughts. He's a Wimple, she repeated sternly, and we Wimples never give up. He's going to be just fine. But there was something in her voice similar to Dad's, a slight flicker of uncertainty. She clenched her teeth, trying to hold back tears. India had never seen Nana Flo cry before, at least not since Grandpa's funeral, but there it was, a small tear falling down her cheek. India reached up and wiped it away. India took her hand. You're right, Nana. He's going to be fine. Wimple family? Nana and India got to their feet and stood again in a tight penguin huddle, preparing themselves for what might happen next. The doctor spoke slowly, choosing his words carefully. It was a particularly bad flare-up, and it will take him some time to fully recover. But Boo's quite a little fighter. He's going to be fine. He's going to be fine, Nana repeated, just to make sure. Yes. When the doctor smiled, his mustache curled up so it seemed to be smiling too. Then Nana did something she wasn't supposed to do. She threw her skinny arms around the doctor and hugged him. Thank you, her muffled voice rose from his lab coat. Thank you so much. Nana stayed like that for a few moments until she eventually pulled away. Sorry. Luckily, the doctor didn't seem to mind. That's okay. I'd probably do the same if it were my grandson. He'll be a little groggy from the medication and tired after being so unwell, so we're going to keep him here for a few days, just to be safe. Can we see him? India couldn't stand the idea that Boo was in a hospital room without all the Wimples around him. Absolutely, but he needs to rest. Nana and India were led through the doors into the noisy hubbub of the children's ward until they came to Boo's room. They poked their heads inside, and without meaning to, India gasped. Boo looked pale and small. His head lolled to the side a little, as if it were too heavy to hold, and there was an oxygen tube beneath his nose. Her heart again felt trampled, like a boot was stomping on her chest. Mom and Dad gave India a hug, which made her want to cry. Boo is going to be fine, she scolded herself. He's a Wimple, and we Wimples never give up. India walked to his bedside, stepping as quietly as possible, and heard his raspy breathing. She tried to stop it, but a single tear dripped onto Boo's hand. She quickly dabbed it away with her sleeve. She didn't allow herself to cry when Boo was sick. She never wanted him to know that she was worried or that she thought he may never come back. She reached out and took his hand. She wanted Boo to know that she was there and she wasn't going anywhere. Okay, now we're on chapter 24, page 189, and it is called castigation. That's a noun, and it means chastisement, scolding, seriously criticize. Everyone was shocked to hear such a stern castigation. India stood beside Boo's bedside, holding his hand, waiting for the smallest sign that he was going to wake up when Dad tiptoed to her side. You've been standing for hours, he said softly. You should get some rest. India shook her head. I have to be here when Boo wakes up. Nana Flo was snoring in a chair, and Mom was asleep with her head on Nana's shoulder. Dad kept his voice low. But you must be tired. He has to know I'm here, she snapped. But then she knew she shouldn't have. It wasn't Dad's fault. None of this was. She was angry that her little brother was sick, and she was scared. They watched as Boo's chest rose and fell and listened to the whirring of the machine helping him breathe. Dad wrapped his arms around India and kissed her on the head. I'm sorry life has been so hard the last few years and that things haven't worked out quite like we expected, but you have to know how much I love being Dad to you and Boo. India looked up and saw Dad's eyes shiny with tears. I look at you both every day and wonder what I did to deserve you. India tried to speak, but it was like the words got tangled in her throat. We make a good team, us Wimples. don't you think? India nodded, feeling even worse that she'd snapped at Dad when Boo's eyes began to open. Boo? She moved closer. His eyes flickered. You look terrible. His eyes were scratchy. His voice was scratchy. India laughed. Her hair was a straggly mess and her pajamas were twisted and crumpled. How kind of you to notice. Dad stroked his cheek. Hey, little man. Mom woke at the sound of Dad's voice and shook Nana's shoulder. He's awake. They flew over to the bed and Mom gently gave Boo a teary kiss. You're back, she said. Nana's curlers flopped around her head. Boy, did we miss you. Boo was confused. Did I have another flare-up? He croaked. You sure did, Dad said, and it was a doozy. But you're fine now. Boo tried to think back, but it was all a blur. What happened? We were at a hotel, India said. And you were about to get into the shower, Mom added. I was getting ready for the bee, Boo remembered. Then he realized something else and turned to India. Is the competition over? Did you win? It hasn't started, India said, but don't worry, I'm not going. What? He dug his hands into the bed and tried to sit up, but his arms weren't strong enough. You have to go, he wheezed. India shook her head. I'm staying here with you. Unless you became a doctor since I last saw you, there's nothing you can do. Competition doesn't matter. It does matter. He was tired and his breathing was heavy. You made it to the grand final. But India wimpled. Boo's voice was still weak, but India could tell he was cranky. You listen to me. You've spent your whole life looking after me. Yes, but India started to object when Boo held up a finger. I haven't finished. India closed her mouth and listened. In all the years her brother had been sick, in all the rushing to the hospital, and all the tubes and doctors and late-night flare-ups, she'd never once seen him annoyed, even a little bit. I know you don't leave your door open at night because you worry about escaping if there's a fire. He paused to catch his breath. I know you don't say no to sleepovers because you'd miss Mom and Dad. And I know you sneak into my room at night to check that I'm still breathing. You do? Mom asked. Not every night, India mumbled. Boo coughed and wheezed, but wasn't about to stop. And then there are the times when you wake up on the floor beside me instead of in your own warm bed. Yes, but I don't mind. India. He fixed her with a stern look. How many times have you sat by my hospital bed waiting for me to wake up? You are not going to sit beside this bed and miss the one chance in your life to let everyone know that I am the best, cleverest sister in the whole world. Boo had never, ever been stubborn about anything in his whole life, but suddenly he was very, very good at it. So go to the opera house now and spell like you've never spelled before. India sighed. Are you sure? I'm more than sure, he breathed. I'm kicking you out. She looked at the clock on the wall. But it starts in 20 minutes. I'll never get there in time. We might, Dad rubbed his chin, as if he were concocting a plan. We just need to get there fast. How's our patient? It was Levi from the ambulance. I'm good, Boo said, still very wheezy. But now my sister has an emergency. Asthma? Levi asked, ready to leap into action. No, Mom shook her head. A spelling emergency. Levi was confused. Do you know the stupendously spectacular spelling bee? Nana Flo asked. I love that show, Levi's eyes widened. I used to dream about being a champion. Well, you could be looking at the next champion right now, Dad said, because India has made it to the grand final. Really? Congratulations. Yes, Mom said, but it starts in 20 minutes. Boo tried to look his cutest. And we don't know how she's going to get there in time. The Wimples were always at their best when they worked as a team, and this was some of their finest work yet. Levi looked at his watch. It's my dinner break. I can get you there. He lowered his voice. Just don't tell anyone. Who's in? I'll come, Dad cried. Levi rattled his keys. Let's go. Thanks, Boo, India smiled. You're welcome. Good luck hug? Yes, please. You'll be great, sis, he whispered. I know it. Dad quickly kissed Boo, Mom, and Nana Flo. He grabbed India's hand and called over his shoulder. Tell the opera house we're on our way. Then turn on the TV. You're about to see a new champion. All right, boys and girls. Thank you so much for letting me be your mystery reader. I really enjoyed it. Can't wait to see what happens in the rest of the book. Thanks.